You can't have everything in the world, but you could have almost anything you want, but you can't have everything you want.
If you want your life to be successful, you will not let yourself do certain things because you're just no good at them. I can reduce my risk without reducing my return by knowing how to diversify.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 to 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 to 9. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to have humility, know your goals, and meditate with Ray Dalio and my take on his top 10 rules of success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule #1. Make believability-weighted decisions.
I should explain believability-weighted decision making to you if you're interested. Okay, so ordinarily, there are two ways of making decisions, pretty much. There's the boss has control, and so
autocratic.
Autocratic. Right? I'll call that autocratic. Takes in everything and then he makes a decision. Or there's democratic, pretty much, one man, one vote. But really, the best decision-making is believability-weighted decision-making. And if you think about it first conceptually, you would say, if you're going to make a decision of what you have a medical condition, and how are you going to get that? You're going to think, who are the best doctors?
Consult the experts, right?
Consult the experts, but this one knows more, and that one knows less, and how do you do it? And then you have this triangulation, and then you make that. That's kind of the idea of believability decision-making. We have ways of assigning believability that we all agree are fair, that we each assess each other, and we get certain amount of believability points. So now imagine that you had your believability on a subject matter. Maybe it's investing, maybe it's accounting, whatever the subject is, that you have a certain amount of believability weighted points and you're together. Well, those believability weighted points, when you say, okay, what should I make as a decision? Now I'm responsible for something, but I ask everybody else, and I take a believability weighted vote. I can have a believability weighted vote. When I have that believability weighted vote, I really do believe that it's going to be a better decision than I would individually make. That's believability weighted decision making.
Rule #2, learn from your mistakes.
So 1979, 80, 81, I calculated that American banks had lent a lot more money to emerging countries than those countries were going to get paid back. And I anticipated that there would be a debt crisis. And with that, an economic crisis. So that was my thinking. In August 1982, Mexico defaulted on its debt. And a number of countries followed. And so because I said that, I got a lot of attention about that. And I thought that was going to be producing a bear market in stocks. And I could not have been more wrong. August 1982 was the exact bottom of the stock market. And I was wrong. And as a result of that, let's take my 8 employees, I had to let them go. I lost money for myself. I lost money and I had to borrow $4,000 from my dad. It was one of the most painful experiences, but it was one of the best experiences that ever happened to me in my life because it changed my perspective about decision making. It gave me the humility that I needed and fear of being wrong in my decisions while I was able to maintain my aggressiveness. So it changed my whole approach to decision making.
Rule #3, be an orchestrator.
The two big things is, how do you get your alignment of your lower level you with your upper level you? How do you get past your ego and your blind spot? And we know what the ego barrier is, like I gotta be right, or whatever it is, or I'm not good at this. The blind spot barrier is the realization that people actually see things different. They see different things. Like somebody will see the big picture, somebody will see the detail. They'll focus on different things, almost like a color spectrum type of thing. And if you realize that you will see a part of that spectrum and other people will see the other part of the spectrum, and so that you really need to, when you go above yourself, you really need to orchestrate all those ways of seeing, because you are not just one of those people that's got to do it yourself. Your way of being the success is to go above it and be the orchestrator and know what you're good at and what you're not good at. So it's almost like if you want your life to be successful, you will not let yourself do certain things because you're just no good at them. Once you get that picture down, then you can find the paths wherever the paths are. You're open-minded because you've given up your ego barrier and your blind spot barrier.
Rule number 4, know how to diversify.
Knowing how to diversify well is more important than almost anything. People don't understand this.
Is that an evergreen principle, you think?
Yes, that's an evergreen principle.
Interesting.
And the reason I'm saying that, the way it is, it's almost like a casino making its money.
Okay.
Okay. The way that you do it is you get an edge. So now when you have to make a bet, I've got to bet against the whole world. The world has a view on something is reflected in the price. So when I think something is attractive or unattractive, that means I have to bet against the whole world and whether that's right or not. That's difficult. I get it right, more often than I get it wrong, but I'm going to get it wrong sometimes. And so when you can take a lot of different bets, what you can do is, like the casino, you'll get your average that your bet would be, but you'll reduce your risk of one of those tables not being the table that's paying off. And so that margin, so I can reduce my risk without reducing my return by knowing how to diversify.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, check out my 254 series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
You have to explain why you're the right person to lead. And above all, you have to know your numbers.
I've always been passionate. Some people thought, it's more OCD than anything else.
The minute you begin to get external in your life, worrying about what other people think about you, right? You've lost all control. And it never fills you up.
Rule number 5, don't get too attached to your opinions.
This is the biggest message that I think that I would get across that I'm trying to convey in principles and so on, is that so many people have opinions in their heads that might be wrong, and they're too attached to them. And if you know how to operate with a certain amount of uncertainty and stress test your opinions in a different way, you get away from your ego, get away from all that, you can learn a lot about raising your probabilities of being right. So what it made me want to do is find the smartest people I could find who disagreed with me. And then I could have conversations with them.
Rule number 6, meditate.
Meditation is the biggest gift that I can give anyone. And I would say more than anything, it is whatever reason for success I've had. Because it allows one, back to the 2 U's, I'll clarify. What I mean is that in your mind, we think, what do you want? And the reality is, when you look at the neuroscience and psychology, that there are different parts of your brain that want different things. And so, in the simplest sense, there is the logical part of your brain that you're conscious of. It's called the conscious. And you think you're being logical and you want to make those decisions. And then there's the subliminal, below the limbic system, part of the brain, which is the emotional, and it's not as conscious to you, but it has more of an influence on you than really the logical one. And so they're not aligned. And so when you're experiencing that pain, or let's say the ego, right, there were 2 main things. You got an ego barrier and a blind spot barrier. If you can get past your ego barrier and you get past your blind spot barrier, you can accomplish anything, because you also know that you don't have to do everything, you don't have to figure it out yourself. You can take in from other people the different ways to approach things in the best possible way. And so the realization that we all are really struggling with ourselves, and to think which is in control. Meditation helps to deal with the alignment of those 2 things.
Rule number 7, take the long shot.
The average person who's listening, too many people think that they can go into this very difficult zero-sum game of betting against the consensus and be right. You know what I mean? In other words, investor says, I'm going to go in the markets, I'm going to make money.
Betting against the consensus and be right.
Right, because the consensus is built into the price.
Okay.
Okay? That's what's the, so it's, think of it as like going to a horse race, and there's handicaps. Okay? You're not going to pick the best horse, and you're not going to pick the best company. A terrible company can be a better investment than a terrific company. A terrible company could be a better investment, just like the terrible horse can be a better investment, because the odds that are changing, like you go into that and that becomes the long shot. But because the long shot is going to pay off 25 to 1, right? If he comes in, that you could just as likely bet on the long shot as the leader, and it's going to be equally likely that you're going to make money, right? Otherwise the market would be doing the opposite. Well, the market is like that, right? In other words, if everybody believes that something's going to be terrific, okay, then everybody's betting on it, and its price is high. So it's not what's best necessarily, it's what's best relative to what's in the price, what's discounted.
Rule number 8, use algorithms.
You now use a lot of computer-related algorithms to help you navigate the market?
Yes, you know, algorithms are what we call them today, equations is what we used to call them. And so you would write that down, and what I learned is, by being clear, then I could tell how that decision would have worked in the past in all different environments, so it gave me a lot of perspective on making that decision. I could test it through the Great Depression and so on, and then I could find that if I use that same algorithm, I could take data from and have the computer make decisions in parallel with me. And so, this is what I recommend for everybody. I recommend they write down their principles and then realize that almost any of those principles can then be converted into algorithms. And so the computer was making decisions in parallel with me making decisions. That type of partnership between me and the computer, and also expressing the algorithms, was invaluable, not only in the quality of the decision making, but also the quality of the relationships that I had with the people I worked with.
Rule number 9, have humility.
My son in 2014 gave me a book by Joseph Campbell called Hero of a Thousand Faces. And basically he described that these things happen, you know, everybody crashes, and then you're faced with that crash. And you either have an epiphany or you don't. You either walk off the field and say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, and you give up on that, going after your audacious goals, or you gain really humility. You know, how do you feel that you're going to be wrong? And so I think then that whole notion is, you know, to come back with the finding the smartest people I could find who disagree with me. Also, I'm in the investment management business that you have to bet against the consensus. Otherwise, you can't make money because it's in the price. And you have to bet against the consensus and be right. Or as an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. I had to bet against the consensus and be right. And so to gain that humility was the thing. So you either get off the field or you learn.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is know your goals.
You have to know what you're going after. You can't have everything in the world, but you could have almost anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. If you go after your goals and they're clear, you have to know your goals.
Now I have a special bonus clip from Ray on how to learn to deal with what you don't know that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1, what's the long shot that you need to take? Number 2, where do you need to have more humility? And number 3, what's a recent mistake that you have learned from? And if you made it this far in the video, I want to celebrate you too. Give me a hashtag believe down in the comments as well.
I'm a dumb and anything that I
haven't done You're saying like you have to.
No, I'm a dumb
Oh, you're a dumb
In other words, that what I mean is that any success I've had in my life has been more due to my knowing how to deal with what I don't know than due to anything I know.
If you want to know why your comfort zone is destroying your life, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.